Fantastic. Well, I do appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to sit down and chat about what we're going to chat about. But, rather than me sit here and explain to our audience who each of you guys are, I'm going to give you guys both an opportunity to give a little bit of background of yourself. And we're going to give our guest the first opportunity. Carl Van Maanen, thanks again for joining us. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right, thanks for the invite, and it's great having this conversation, although it's via Teams, but it works well. I moved to South Africa in 1999. I'm originally from Holland. I studied in Holland at university. I've got a BSc in engineering. Worked for a company, Alfa Laval, that most people will know. It's a big international company doing plate heat exchangers, and that's my forte. I've done that ever since. So from 2014, 2015, I've been now full-time with IWC trying to grow the heat exchanger business.
Okay, just to present myself, I'm a chemical engineer in food industry. One of my first jobs was to work in a starch industry in Sudan. Then before Solex, I was working 5 years for a French company called Maanen, also in the sugar industry for different type of equipment. And since the year 2000, that's almost 20 years, even a bit more now, I'm working now for Solex.
And these days, I know you're looking after the South African market for Solex, but you're also really focused on sugar, correct?
That's correct. I would say so. I'm focused on sugar that's worldwide to keep a support worldwide, also for new application in sugar, and I can also discuss a little bit later on.
Let's get into it. The reason why we have Carl here today is not because of his cycling skills, but it is the fact that there is a relationship between Solex and IWC that some people might not be aware of. And maybe, Jean-Marc, I'll keep this with you. Explain that relationship.
Yes, I think it's a good relationship because as we are installing some cooler, we need to cool the water which exit our equipment. And of course, IWC, they are specialized. They could install a cooling tower or frame exchanger with water from a river, and they are very good. That's a very good combination. We are placing the cooler, and they are placing the auxiliary equipment.
Of course, with the heat exchangers that we've been focusing on for the last couple of years, it's more liquid-to-liquid type of heat exchangers, and it's more the plates gasket type of heat exchanger. So the dry bulk heat exchangers is a new concept for us to work with, but it fits perfectly within our portfolio. Even though COVID is prevalent in South Africa at the moment. So it's not easy to get into front of a customer's face, but we had some good meetings already and interest, and they do like that there's a local representation. They do not like buying from an overseas company, and then if something does go wrong and they don't have, the backup that they need, or somebody that can come out the next day to, address the issue. And so that's a lot of comfort, I think, for customers in general.
Maybe give us a little bit of lay of the land. What are some of the main bulk solid industries outside of those that you might see in the South African market?
Petrochemical is a big industry, as well as steel. Then we've got some oil seeds industries that also quite big, which is applicable to dry bulk, of course. And what else? There's the fertilizer industry that is also quite big, and pulp and paper. Problems for South Africa, I think, regarding growing because of COVID has really just put a big damper on the whole economy, and it was already in a slump. Unemployment is, I think, over 27% at the moment. That's official. I think the unofficial is probably higher.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's very, very scary. And then Eskom, unfortunately, that's the power generation utility in South Africa. Extremely expensive for kilowatt hour. We went in the last, I think, 10 to 15 years from being the cheapest in the world to the most expensive in the world. So for companies to grow and to get reliable energy, it's a difficulty at the moment.
Jean-Marc, if I wouldn't mind asking you, you've been leading Solex's efforts in the South African market for the better part of 2 years. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's the better part of 2 years. But what have your observations have been as you're kind of leading those efforts? Where are some of the opportunities? Where are some of the challenges?
Okay, we mentioned the sugar industry because it's very important. The sugar industry, of course, in South Africa, you have a lot of big companies there. And that's where we could help also the sugar industry because our cooler could, let's say, deliver sugar very stable temperature. And that's very important to have this stable temperature before the storage to avoid any caking phenomena. The other industry, what is very interesting for IWC and Solex, that's the oil seed industry. And the reason of this, that's because in this type of industry, we are able to recover what we call in English the low-grade energy. That means for the moment they have, for instance, some cooker. And if we can recover the hot water coming from the condensate, we can preheat the seeds. And by doing this, we can decrease the overall energy consumption and also the emission of the plant.
What are some of the challenges, I guess, that your South African clients would normally have, and how does having a local representation kind of help them with that?
It depends on where you are in South Africa or Southern Africa, like Namibia, Botswana, Mozambique, those places. Those customers are far away, and to get support from America, from Europe, of course, is even more difficult. And it's already difficult for them sometimes to get support from South Africa, like Johannesburg-based service providers. Broad-based Black Economic Empowerment, that's what the BEE stands for. It is a government-driven initiative for the last, I think, 20 years, more or less, where they try to promote the previously disadvantaged population. I think the initiative is a very good thing, obviously, but the way it has been done hasn't always materialized of achieving the objective. And saying that is that, you cannot put a person, no matter what color he is, it doesn't matter. But if he doesn't have the qualification, and even if he has the qualification, doesn't have the experience, you cannot put him in a position in a company and expecting that person to, run a business if he's never been exposed to that. So they made a lot of mistakes like that. They've learned from it, I think, and they refine the whole process every couple of years. So they also look at, from a company point of view of procuring from a BE company and getting the previously disadvantaged people into management positions, but having the education and the qualifications with that.
How's this traced back to skilled labor? Is skilled labor an issue in the South African market as a result of that?
Yes, I do think so. Not only because of what I explained now, but also there's been a lot of experienced people leaving South Africa. They've gone to Australia, they've gone to the UK, quite a few I think have gone even to Canada and into Europe. So there's a lot of expertise that has drained out of South Africa, and to replace that will take time. And on top of that, with the BEE scenario, a lot of companies go headhunting for good engineers, because there's good engineers out there, obviously. But those guys, they are so in demand. They stay 1 year with a company and they go to the next. So they don't get that exposure and that experience which you need to stay within a company for, I call it 3-4 years, to really do the groundwork. And then it's time to move on to the next phase of your career. IWC is really keen on growing the heat exchanger division, obviously, and Solex can be a great part of that. So I'm really looking forward to build this relationship.
Carl, if people were wanting to keep updated on what IWC is doing, where would you throw them to?
Well, they can visit our website, www.iwc.co.za. That's the easiest, I think. There's also contacts, but obviously they can call me, they can drop me an email. We're on LinkedIn, so that's, I think we share quite a bit of your posts that you do on LinkedIn, and
That's what I was going to say a little bit. Carl, for those watching this, is very active on LinkedIn. So I would say certainly go and follow him there. Very easy to get a hold of there. So again, I just want to thank you guys. I know unprecedented times, forced us to adapt, and here we are on this video chat. But I think it's been great. One day, let's get around that table behind you, Jean-Marc, and actually have a real not round table, I guess a square table conversation there. But in the meantime, we'll talk again soon. Thanks, guys.